I like to use the Tyler Durden line that I sell soap.
Well, listen, Dave, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here.
My pleasure.
You know, we met once and hit it off like that.
Yes. It was
That was
wonderful.
amazing. You've been here for how long?
33 years. I came in 89.
89. I came in 74, so beat you a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
Where were you born, Dave?
I was born in Marshfield, Wisconsin, in the U.S., so a small town, only 13,000 at that time.
What is it now? You know?
Probably 19,000, something like that.
Didn't know that.
Really, really growing. Yes.
You guys are really getting up there.
Yes.
You got some tall buildings now, right? Anyway,
Yes.
so Wisconsin. So did you have siblings?
I have 6. I'm going to rephrase it. I'm the youngest of 6 children. So it's, and the 5 of them were born in 6 years. So 5 of them were born, and then my dad said no more. And then 3 years later, I came out as an accident. So, yes. But, so it's Greg, Jeff, Kathy, Linda, Robert. Bob died probably somewhere around 40 years ago, 35 years ago in a car accident. But the others are still here.
How old was he?
So that was probably, he was around 20, he was probably around 29, 87. He was born in 59, so 28.
Was he the closest to you? I mean, in age-wise, he was.
Yeah.
He was the 5th.
I wasn't close to any of my siblings, any of them. Oh, no. It was only after I moved to Japan that I started, they started reconnecting with me.
Wait. Because you were, how many years between you and him?
3. And 9 years between the oldest and me.
But they had already had a relationship with each other, so you were kind of like the odd man out.
And I was also odd.
Now, how were you? In what way?
I was hyperactive. Oh yeah.
You had a lot of stimuli. You had 5 brothers and sisters.
Yes.
So how many sisters?
2 sisters and 3 brothers.
So they were always doing stuff to you, and you were always getting involved, or what?
Yes, or I would cause trouble, or I would be off in my own little world, or whatever it was. I wasn't in sync with them. I was definitely not connected with them, or didn't feel connected with them. Yeah.
So what were you like in elementary school? Were you more academic or more sports-minded? What were you like?
I was more academic, but I always saw myself as sports-minded. I was very klutzy at sports, but I always saw myself as great at sports.
Okay.
So I love being and playing football, but I was always the last person picked.
Is that right?
But I love playing it. Yeah. Yes.
So you were enthusiastic about everything you did, but you weren't necessarily the best at it when you did it.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. What about mom and dad?
My parents got divorced when I was 10, but Dad left home when I was 7. My dad's a doctor. I lived in a town where basically everyone was blue collar, and then they built a clinic there, which was this major deal that was like the biggest in 6 states, and so people would come from all around, and then they started attracting doctors. So you had the educated doctor community, and you had the warehouser, home building, blue collar community. It was kind of disjointed, but I was in the middle of both of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the city had it had culture, but it also was very down to earth. Lots of bars. Okay. I grew up in an era where if your hand was tall enough to get over the counter, you got served. Carding wasn't really a thing in Wisconsin.
Okay. Because everyone knew, and you were pretty homogenous.
Everyone knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone, right?
Yeah, everyone knows or knows of everyone in those small towns. Yes. Yes.
So what were your biggest interests when you were growing up in school? Let's say from starting, what were the first things that caught your interest?
Well, it's funny. I didn't really start catching interest in anything until I got into junior high.
Okay.
Grade school was kind of a blur. Didn't really do well in any of my subjects. Didn't really try in any of my subjects, but it was just having fun. I got to junior high, and I noticed that I could do things well.
Like what?
Any subject I took. So we were in a modular system, which means you have like 20 mods per day, and you can have a class that's only 20 minutes long, or a class that you can have that's 4. That's an hour and 20 minutes long. And I took as many classes as I could. And I basically got straight A's and everything. I also had the second highest detention rate of anyone. It was so easy for me. It was so easy at school that I kept on getting into trouble. I wasn't challenged.
So what kind of trouble did you get into?
Oh, I don't know, skipping out on school grounds, or I was in physics class once or chemistry class, and I was blowing paper wads at a girl through an empty pen, and the professor, the teacher, definitely got me into
Okay.
suspension. I mean, that's the type of thing. I was being a typical brat type of annoyance to other
You
students.
didn't have people you ran. I mean, your tight group.
No,
You were pretty much
very
a
much
loner?
alone. Yeah, very much a loner. Yes, I didn't run with anyone. There were people who would associate with me, were nice to me and gracious to me. But they were being nice to me rather than anyone calling them up and say, "Dave, I miss you. Let's go out." It was, sure, you can tag along,
I see.
but I understand that was of my own doing. I mean, I wasn't making efforts to create relationships and being sincere with people. I was in my own little world, and just if I wanted attention, I'd do something to get attention.
Do you think that you were affected because your mother and father separated?
I'm sure. I'm sure that had something to do
So
with
mom
it.
had her hands full anyway, and you're the last one, so.
Yes, yes, I was the last of six. It pretty much drove her crazy. I mean, she had a hard time dealing with six kids. The oldest of which, was 15, 16, 17, and then me, 7, 8, 9.
Two different spectrums.
Yes, yes, and
Or are they still here? Both your parents are okay?
I know they've both passed.
Oh, both of them.
Yes, my mom passed 30 years ago this year, and my dad passed a year ago in May,
How old was he when he passed?
89.
89.
Yeah, and my mom was 59 when she passed.
Okay. Did either of them get married again?
My father did.
Okay.
My father left my mother for another one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was that whole thing there, and it was an interesting dynamic because they let the kids come visit him, but it was always just a little bit off, and I didn't know how to handle that. So
He had more kids?
And I don't think so. I think his wife Judy had a child from a previous marriage, but I don't think they had any kids of their own.
Okay.
Yeah. But they stayed married for a very long time until she passed away.
Oh,
Yeah.
So she passed away before he did.
Yes.
Okay. And then he didn't get married again. He was.
No, he was already 86
Okay.
at that point. So
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. So when you went to high school, did you have anything that you were particularly focused on then in high school?
well, it's interesting because I did so well in junior high. My mother grew up in I don't want to say wealthy. I guess you could relatively. She was in a very well-off Jewish family. Her father, my grandpa Nate, ran a speakeasy, a restaurant across from City Hall, where during the Prohibition they had a back room with a slot door, and you had to say the password. And most of their customers were politicians and policemen. But yeah, he did very, very well. Had lots of money at that point. And my grandmother was living the high life as the princess.
Were you close to your grandparents?
As close as I could be, being 7. I mean, I don't really ever have many memories, but they very, very much treated me well and had good memories of them, both sides of the parents. Very, very, very good memories. But my transition from junior high into high school, because my mother had so much culture in her life, she was very much afraid of me going down the path of my brothers and sisters and many other people in this small town of Marshfield, which was drugs and alcohol.
Your brothers and sisters all got involved in?
Sure. Yeah. The first time I had a drink, I was 8 years old. The first time I smoked pot, I was 7 years old. Okay.
No, come on. Wait, what was it?
I was just
What years are we talking about now?
1970.
70s?
Okay, when I was born in 63.
Okay.
So 1970 was the first time. But even before that, my dad was a doctor, so we always had pharmaceuticals in the house.
And you knew what to do with them. You knew how to get them in.
Well, when you have codeine cough syrup once as a 5-year-old, you tend to go back to the medicine cabinet.
You like it, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I was guzzling codeine syrup before the age of 6. So it was interesting growing up in a medical household.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she didn't want you to go the route of your brothers and sisters.
Right.
So what she did?
So my mom ran an art gallery at the clinic. My dad was a doctor at this new clinic, and they had a huge lobby. My mom said, "This is such a waste of space. We have people coming from 6 states. Let's put an art gallery in here and expose people to things that, they're coming from farms. They've got hod cloppers on. let's give them some type of culture so that they can at least be exposed to it. But if they can walk by it if they want, but if they want to sit and deal with it or look at it and walk around, they can. So she had this place called the New Visions Art Gallery that she founded in Marshfield. And one of the exhibits, I believe, was the Art of the Carolinas. And the gentleman who was the curator of that exhibit had a son who went to Deerfield Academy, which is like the #3 private school, high school in all America. And they got to talking, and he said, you need to get your son out of here. And so she got focused on applying me to prep schools. I applied to Deerfield, Andover, Exeter. I think there were a couple others, but Deerfield's the only one I got into.
Okay.
So I went to Deerfield for 4 years. Complete opposite of Marshfield. I went from straight A's to C's at best. I mean, it was
competitive.
I was writing 10-page papers at the age of 15. Okay.
So these guys were the way.
Oh,
I,
yes.
I can just about guess what it was like. The way to be the jock there was to be the best in academics.
Well, no, but it was also a heavy jock school.
Really?
So you
Was
had
this was this co-ed?
all male. It's
All male,
it's
okay.
co-ed now.
No, but it wasn't then. Okay.
It was all male, and they were recruiting. They would actively recruit from junior highs out in California, Wyoming, Florida, to get the best. So, for example, while I was there, if not undefeated, the water polo team was champions for years and years straight. They might have lost a game or two, a match or two, but no, they were very serious about their sports.
And there's a lot of money in the school because it's an old established.
I went to school with Rockefellers and.
I was going to ask you, tell me some of the alumni.
Yes, the Koch brothers. Yes, so very, very well. I mean, they have a huge endowment. That's how I got there. I went on a scholarship.
Okay.
I got accepted to Deerfield because I could play the trumpet. I was their
because you could play the trumpet.
I was the token artsy fartsy guy.
Artsy fartsy, okay.
Because they were trying to get away from the jock image.
Right.
I mean, academic. I mean, very, very high academics, and also sports. But the arts department wasn't really there. So I played trumpet and I got in that scholarship. So my mom paid $3,000 a year in a school that cost just under 10. Right now, I think it's about 40, the tuition for a high school per year. But that's how I got into that school, and I got in, but it was very, very difficult. Just grind. I mean, I was pulling all-nighters.
So you wanted to, even though it wasn't your idea?
I loved it.
No, I mean, but when your mom, proposed this to you, and you got in, you really wanted to be in there.
Let's just say that I've never had any direction in my life, and if someone points me in one, I'm happy to go there.
Okay.
It's never been, I want to stay in Marshfield. I want to go to Deerfield. It was, yeah, this is cool. That's how I got to Japan. I saw a poster on a wall that said, do you have an MBA? Would you like to teach Japanese junior business executives how to get into American business schools? I'm like, okay.
So
there was no direction there. It wasn't something I planned. Yeah.
So what was it like being at your college? It was Deerfield.
Well, no, Deerfield was the high school.
The high school.
The high school. It was intense. I mean, it was intense. It was 4 years of intense academics, and I didn't play any inter-school sports. I only played intramural sports, but it was fun. I played sports I never played before. I did rock climbing, I did ski jumping, I did lacrosse, and then I also did baseball and basketball. But it was fun getting exposed to those things. Mm-hmm. So high school was great, and I spent a year abroad in France. So I spent a year
doing what?
Learning subjects in French. So I went to a French school. Stayed with a French family my junior year of high school. Wow. Yeah, it was great.
So do you speak French now still? You can remember some.
I can fake it now.
Okay,
I was absolutely fluent
okay.
Fluent. You couldn't tell I wasn't French when I was 18. I was there when I was 16 to 17, but you couldn't tell that I wasn't fluent.
Then it wouldn't take you any time at all to get back to it. It's just like once you learn how to ride a bike.
Give me a month. I watch French movies and I get about half of it right now.
Do you?
Yes. So it's that bad.
I did a podcast with, have you been to Daikanyama? Andre Petron.
Okay.
He has a restaurant there.
Okay, I haven't been, no.
Oh. And his podcast, I let him do it in French, and his son translated.
Oh, great.
It's excellent. So you'll like it. This is a good one.
Okay, I'll watch that.
You'll like it.
It's very good.
It's recent, yeah.
And I'll try the restaurant.
Passion.
Passion?
Passion, yeah.
Okay.
Andre Passion. Yeah. So when you finished college, what degree did you finish with?
Okay. So when I finished high school,
High school. Then you went to college.
I went to the University of Chicago, and so
Oh, that's right, because you went to this elite high school. I'm sorry.
yeah, so
Right.
yes. So I went to
like college.
yes, but again, I applied to several colleges, and the only one I got into was University of Chicago. I also got into North Texas State University, but that was for trumpet. So I figured if I didn't get into the Ivies, I would fall back on my trumpet. Right. But I got into Chicago, so I went to Chicago for 4 years.
And you still holding your trumpet with you?
In the closet.
Okay.
Once I got to college, it was like, okay, time to move on.
All right.
And I was there for 4 years, and I started out majoring in mathematics. So I took advanced chemistry, advanced mathematics, advanced calculus, all this stuff, and it was just too hard. I mean, I thought Deerfield was hard. I took an FW, which means I was failing out of chemistry. I withdrew out of advanced chemistry, and in calculus, I got like a 30 or a 40, but because they were grading on a curve, I got a B.
And you couldn't take it.
I was like, I don't want this.
Right.
I don't want to get A's and B's failing over half of my questions. That's no. Since I was fluent in French, I switched to become a French major, and basically skated through college. I mean,
this is after your first year?
After my first year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that made it easier. The prerequisites were a lot
less.
Yeah.
Yes. So I just went through that, but 3 years into college, my roommate Steve Henn, he wanted to go into the business school. They have a program there where after your third year of college, you can go into your first year of business school. So your last year of college becomes your first year of business school, and you can graduate with 2 degrees in 5 years. And
is that what you did?
So we both applied for it, and that's what I did, yes. Yeah, so I went into what's called professional options, the pro-op program. So in my 4th year, I switched from a French major to a business major. After my 4th year of college, which was my first year of taking all business school classes, I graduated from college with a degree in business, and then just finished out my business school degree.
Okay. Yeah. So then once you finished school, you went to a pub or something, you celebrated, and then you went into the restroom and you saw this big poster with someone say, "Come to Japan." Now what had happened?
I wish that's what it was. I wish that's what it were. Yeah, but unfortunately, going to the University of Chicago, apart from calculus and chemistry, because Deerfield had prepared me so well for academic life, I was basically getting straight A's. So I got the B in calculus, but got out of there. I got the W from chemistry, got out of there, and everything else was A's. So my first year in college, I got straight A's, and it kind of went down from there. So by the time I graduated from college, I had a 3.251, which was like the 0.1% to get above an honors degree. So I got the honors, but my business school classes, I was getting straight C's in. And my second year, I did even worse. So I was in a fraternity, and I was having too much fun socially, and I was drinking majorly, and I wasn't taking my classes seriously. So that senior slide really hit. And when I went interviewing for jobs, everyone noticed, and no one hired me. No one hired me. So after I got out of business school, I tried to get jobs, and no one would hire me for months and months and months. The University of Chicago the business school has a career resource center where all these different companies give their leads. And I would go in there every week or every month and get the leads and interview, whatever. And one time I was there after 50 failed interviews. There was a poster on the wall that said, "Do you have an MBA? Would you like to come teach Japanese junior executive cutthroats how to get into American business schools so they can advance in their companies?" I was like, I can do that.
Had you ever been outside the United States? Come to the United States?
Well, except the time in France.
No, I went to France.
So I was in France.
What year in college were you in when you went to France?
I was in high school.
Oh, that was in high school.
So I was in my junior year in high school. I was in France.
Okay.
But I had so that was 79, 80. I was in France. And other than that, had never been out of the States yet.
Okay, where in France were you?
In a small, no, not small, it's 200,000. It's a place called Rennes.
Rennes.
R E
Where's it
N N E
located
S.
from Paris?
So northwest of Paris.
Oh, northwest of Paris.
So you have England, and then you have Normandy, and below that is Brittany.
Right.
And they say in French, Bretagne.
Bretagne.
And then I'm at the capital of Bretagne, which is called Rennes.
Okay.
So I was in that city. Yes, beautiful.
You enjoyed it? Have you been back since?
No, but the legal drinking age there was 15.
15.
15. So
wait, was that only for? No restrictions?
No restrictions.
You could be hard, not just wine.
I went into pubs. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I would go into pubs on my lunch break from high school.
Has it stayed that way, you think?
No, I think now it's either 18 or 20. They've moved it up. But as a high schooler there, it was lots of fun. Lots of fun. Yes. Yes, I had a great time.
Wow.
Yes. But getting back to where I was, I'm sorry to get off track, going to Japan was definitely my only time out of America, except for that time in France. Okay. And so it was my first time.
Had you ever wanted to? I mean, after you went to France, did you think, I'm going to do this again? I want to leave the U.S. again? After you went to France?
I'm always happy where I am. So when I was in France, I was happy to stay there. I did not want to leave. When I came back,
stay there? Oh
yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to stay there. I had a girlfriend. I was only 17. I wanted to just get off the bus and not go back to America. That was traumatic. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So then you came back.
I came back, and I was happy to stay in the States. I just couldn't find a job. Okay. And I was happy to move to Japan. It was interesting for me, and I'm a Buddhist. Okay. So,
but you weren't then.
Well, I was.
Wait just a minute. Wait. So when did you become a Buddhist?
In 1987.
That would have been while you were in college?
I had taken a year off from business school, so I went to my last year of college. It was my first year of business school. Okay. And then I dropped out. I took a year off and waited tables at a restaurant.
And became a Buddhist.
And became a Buddhist, and then went back. My Buddhist leader convinced me to go back and finish my degree.
So you could have the double degree.
Right. Yeah. So I became a Buddhist in December 1987. Okay. And it's an organization called the Soka Gakkai.
Yes.
Okay.
There's no Soka Gakkai.
Okay.
Do you go to the one over here in Hiro?
Several of the places, yes.
Right. Because right next to Sacred Heart. Don't they have one right there?
They had one. They had one, but
they moved.
Well, so the Soka Gakkai and the Nichiren Shoshu priest organization had a falling out.
Oh.
So they were excommunicated, and now the Gakkai has their own meetings in their own kaikans, their own meeting places. Okay. But yes, there are definitely meeting halls in Hiro and in Shibuya and all over. Okay. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was a Buddhist and it was a Japanese sect of Buddhism. I'm like, oh, Japan, I can go there and be closer to the home of my Buddhism.
When you saw that poster,
that was the attraction.
So that was the attraction. Okay, so there was more than just seeing that and you're going that way.
Right.
You had another motive too.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of the attraction. But when I got here, I was only supposed to stay here for 9 months. It was a August to March teaching gig, and then I was happy to go back to the States. In January of 1990, January of 1990, the people at that school informed me that the way they do business there is they don't rehire anyone. They cut everyone, so they don't have to raise salaries. But anyone who's an MBA, they use their headhunting division to place them out into Japanese companies and get a first-year salary from the company that we get hired by. Clever people. And then they get a new batch of people in from America at the same salary, and just turn them over. So I got a job at a consulting company in Japan, worked there for 3 years after I finished. So just a reason to stay. Right. And then I met my business partner at our current company, and he invited me to leave there and come join him. I'm like, okay.
To do what?
He has a dream of being a manufacturing hub in Japan and selling worldwide. And from the beginning, he's always had this dream. He's the vision guy. He's the guy with the plan, the man with the plan. I'm the sap with the map. He's the guy. He's the man with the plan. So it's always been his dream to provide products to people that enhance their happiness, that are unique, and we're not dealing with Me Too's, that are consumable, so people need to buy more, and that have no negative effects on the environment or the body. So no alcohol, no stock trading, only things that are tangible, palpable, that help people, that give them better health, better environment, better peace of mind, and just true happiness that lead them on that path.
What made him come up with? Is he a Buddhist as well?
No. And you can say he's a Christian, but he wouldn't say that. He is a follower of Jesus, but really does not like religion or the church or anything like that at all. Definitely does all his own teaching himself. But very religious, very spiritual man.
Married with kids?
Married, no children.
Okay.
Married to Japanese. Yes.
So are you guys similar in age?
He's 61, I'm 59. So yes, very similar.
Okay, very similar. Yeah, that's 2 years apart.
And he went to the University of Chicago Business School as well. We never met there. We were there at the same time, but never met there. We met at a reunion here in Tokyo. Just happened to be at the same place at the same time. Yeah. So serendipity.
How long have you been together?
The company was formed in '93. So that's 29 years.
29 years. So it's just the two of you that set up the company?
Yes, and now...
Didn't you have 3 people usually?
Well, no, so the 2 of us and our wives.
Okay.
So 4 of us in the beginning. But right now we're at about 30 employees, all Japanese.
Well, tell me about your company.
So our company, I like to use the Tyler Durden line that I sell soap, but we have 2 divisions. One is selling environmentally safe surfactants, soaps, detergents, cleaning products that are plant derived. So nothing from petroleum, no synthetics, all totally biodegradable, very gentle on your hands, on the skin. We're very good in food factories and restaurants, so if someone actually spills something in the food, it's not going to poison people, things like that. So that's our marketing edge there. We're very expensive. Our raw materials are very expensive. We make very little profit. I make very little money.
What's the hopes that it's going to eventually reach a tipping point and then boom?
That's always the hope. That's been our hope for 30 years.
Right. Yeah.
So
there's a tipping point, they say, usually. If you have something.
Yes. We've been hoping for a long time.
For 30 years. Okay.
Yes. So we've been hoping for or almost 30 years.
If it gives you any hope, my father-in-law said this prior to him passing. He told me, he said, Lance, I know that you're ambitious. I could see this. I could see the light in your eye when I first met you. Don't build a lot of small pyramids, because if you do so, the base isn't very stable. He said, take your time and get a real wide base, because when you do go up, which is a lot easier, it will be huge. And intellectually I understood that. Emotionally, it's another thing.
Yes.
So I've been building a lot of small pyramids, but in the back of my mind, hoping that the base is, I haven't having to go back on my, emotions and get into the intellect and say, but actually it's like adding to my base.
Yes.
And someday,
and that's where you want to end up.
My lifetime, but
exactly. That's where you want to end up being. That looking back and saying, okay, that was a base.
It is.
Yeah. We've almost gone bankrupt, minimum of 4 times.
Hallelujah.
The past thing with COVID almost put us under. Lehman Brothers shock almost put us under. When the yen rate, when it went up to whatever it was, 126, we had set our prices when the yen rate was 90 into the dollar, and Japan will never let you raise prices, and the exchange rate went up to 126. Or in that time we were buying stuff from Australia. The Australian rate went from 70 up to 105.
So you're really affected by the currency, because you're dealing not with just products in Japan. You're getting your sources from somewhere else, from abroad, and that's what takes it. And you have shipping costs.
Yes. So in the beginning, we only did import because we had no manufacturing. We only did import. But
now you manufacture?
But now we're manufacturing. So in the beginning, we were totally dependent on products coming in from overseas. Now we're bringing in raw materials from overseas. So we're locally based in Japan. We have 2 divisions. The one is the soap division, which we have our own factory up in Ibaragi, and we do all our manufacturing there. The other one is a health food supplement division, where we sell amino acid sports supplements, which the general public can take as well. And we contract out a manufacturing company for that. Yes. Oh, yes. it's okay if we mess up a batch of soaps and someone uses it and it's not effective. It's not okay if we mess up a batch of health food products.
That's internal.
And someone dies. Yes. So we farm all of that manufacturing out. And there is pressure to raise prices. In the soap division, finally, this September, with the hyperinflation that's going in the US and it's bleeding into Japan with the raising of prices, and all of our competitors are raising prices, we've finally been allowed to raise prices on 3 of our products in the soap division.
That's been allowed to.
We have price inelasticity in 3 of our products that if we raise them, people will still buy it. Okay. If we raise them in the others, people will stop buying it and go to the competitor.
I was thinking that someone outside of the consumer was restricting you from being able to raise your prices.
I'm sorry. The economics are allowing us to do that.
Okay.
On the other products, we're not able to raise the retail price, but we're raising the wholesale price to our wholesalers. So the end user pays the same price, but the wholesalers are making less profit. Okay. And we've done that across the board on all of our products in the soap division. In the healthcare division, the Masashi amino acid products, we can't raise any of our prices. And as a matter of fact, 10 years ago, we lowered our prices and everything because the competition was so tough. So we're making razor thin profits there. And after COVID hit, all the gyms shut down. Our sales were cut in half. I'm sorry, down by 48%. We didn't make the 50% that gave us all the bank loans.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we missed it by 2%. 1.5 million yen.
We missed it by. Are very strict about that.
Yes. But we survived. We had a huge pool of cash. We survived.
To take you a little bit off what you're talking about now, when you talked about bankruptcy and almost filing for it 3 times or so.
Yes.
What do you think saved you from doing that?
Well,
was there an overall factor that you could apply to all the times that you went?
It's good to have a genius as a partner. My partner David truly has foresight and wherewithal to not make short-term decisions, and to truly, if we have to, cut off an arm to save the body, and go the tough period. There was a time where he and I were making 200,000 yen a month. Okay, we were the lowest paid people in the company.
That's how good you're doing. Okay.
Oh no, that's how. We
did the lowest paid. Okay.
We went. There was a good time before that. We were making $20,000 a month, my partner and I. Okay, we were rolling in it. We were great, but we didn't want to worry any of our employees. We wanted them to keep focused on work. So he and I cut as much as we could out of our lives to keep their salaries steady when it got really rough. And that was during the Lehman Brothers period there. We lost $1.48 million in a 6-month period because of the exchange rate. Our amino acid products that we were importing from Australia at the time was more expensive to buy than to sell them. And so we were losing money in every single box that we bought. But we finally got futures contracts put in place. We got our dollar hedged. We got all that set, so we were hedged, and we wouldn't lose any money. But then when the yen went from 125 down to 80, we weren't making any extra profit because our dollar was hedged. So other people were raking in extra profits on their low cost of goods sold. We were not making that much money, but it was steady. The base, a steady base. And banks in Japan only value steadiness. They don't care that we're making this much profit, because if it's this sharp a rise, they're concerned it's going to be this sharp a fall. And sure enough, it becomes later that sharp a fall. So it's that steady base that David was in tune with. He was always making sure that our balance sheet and our profit and loss was in tune, reflecting the steadiness of where we were going. And that's how we kept afloat. It was his foresight, having enough cash on hand. It was always our philosophy to have too much cash. And if that meant having a lot of loans, then we'd have a lot of loans, which is possible in Japan because the interest rate was under 1%. If the interest rate 5%, we can't do that. So we were a very unique situation where we had a ton of cash, 12 million yen in cash. I'm sorry, $12 million in cash, 10 million yen in loans, but $12 million in cash, we could pay that back any time. And it was that cushion that got us through the COVID period.
Mm-hmm.
COVID in particular, we would have gone out of business if we didn't have that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Are your wife still involved in your business?
David's wife is.
Okay.
She's the head of the accounting division at our company. My wife was the head of accounting, but she got pregnant back in 2001. So she quit the company on December 1st, 2001, and my son Renee was born December 8th, 2001. So seven days later.
Yeah, he's going to be a year soon.
No. So December 2001. 2001.
Oh, I'm thinking 2021. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's somewhere else.
So 2001, she quit the company 20 years ago, 21 years ago, because she was this pregnant. And so she still runs our trademark. She still works on that. She's still the person in charge of trademarks. So we still give her a salary every month, but she's not in the office. Once every 2-3 months, she'll come in and sort that out and then go back home. But she's still an employee. She's still on the payroll. But she's been raising 2 kids for the past 20 years.
So you have 2 kids?
Yes.
One that's 21.
So my 21-year-old is Renee. He's in Soka University out in Hachioji, here in Japan. My 18-year-old is Joe, and he's in Wisconsin living with my sister, his aunt, going to school there.
How old was he when he left?
He was 14 when he left.
So you've been there 4 years?
Yes, 4 years. He couldn't handle Japanese education. It was driving him crazy.
Really?
Because he's
But
like,
he speaks Japanese. He's fluent, isn't he?
well, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
he didn't speak any English.
Okay. So I was thinking.
Yes. He went to Japanese school, didn't speak any English, but he was the ADHD kid. So
Yes.
he was always asking questions. And the teacher's like, I just explained that 5 minutes ago. Go, be quiet, shut up, sit in the corner. You know, the Japanese expression, the nail that gets sticking up gets hammered down.
Exactly.
That was Joe.
nail.
He was that nail. And it was driving him crazy. He was going to quit school at the age of 14 and go into the trades and become a carpenter.
And you didn't want that?
Didn't want that. Yes.
Okay.
So as an alternative, we said, well, why don't you try the States? We had him over in the States, had him visit the school that was near where my sister lived. He liked it. He said yes, and he moved to America in January 2019 and had him go to an English school for 8 months and get through that.
Mm-hmm.
In March, he came back to Japan to graduate from middle school, because if he didn't come back, he wouldn't get that middle school certificate.
Right.
So he came back for 2 weeks to graduate from Japanese middle school and then went back to America, and he's been there ever since.
Does he enjoy it?
Yes, there's challenges. He doesn't like to have to go into the classes he doesn't want to be in. So his grades are not straight A's. They're very difficult. His freshman year, COVID hit. So his first semester he had a 3.0. His second semester he had pass fail, and really didn't study. Then he went to a sophomore year, and his GPA was 2.5. But he was in his trades. He took trades classes and math classes, got straight A's or B's in those. But English and social studies and those classes were difficult. Junior year, he transferred to another school, which is the same distance from his current school, from his house, because it had engineering classes. And I wanted him to take those classes because he does like engineering. And I don't want him to just simply join the Navy or go into the trades as a carpenter without exploring the possibility of actually going to college as a civil engineer, trying the profession.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't like it, he can always go back to being a carpenter. He can always join the military at 22 instead of 18.
That's right.
But if he doesn't apply to colleges now, he might miss out on that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he says, I go into the military first, and then I can get the GI Bill to pay for my college. So, we're open to all things.
Right.
But it's just out of Japan.
So how's he doing as far as his English goes right now? Is he speaking English really well?
He won't speak Japanese.
What about your oldest son? Does he speak any English?
Yes.
As well as your second?
Oh, no.
The second really just jumped on it. Completely.
Just overtook him. Just completely overtook him. Yes.
And of course it's comprehension too, because he's in that environment.
Absolutely.
I saw that happen with my youngest, because we let our youngest go to college in the U.S., but the other 3 stayed here.
Yeah, total immersion.
And he comes back, and just his whole sensibilities. I see that side. which I can't say isn't something I might have wanted my other sons to have as well, that arsenal. But they're all doing well. I can't complain one bit. That's interesting.
It's very varied, and they're completely different personalities.
Are they close with each other?
No.
How many years apart?
2 years, 2 months apart.
That's close enough to be close.
But Joe always wanted to do what Renee could do.
Okay.
And Renee wasn't tolerant of Joe not being as good. And so Renee would berate Joe.
I hear you.
And Joe would think he wasn't good enough. But he was 2 years different. Your English isn't good enough. Your soccer isn't good enough. Your math isn't good enough. Whatever it was, he would use that opportunity to put down Joe. And so Joe has a difficulty with having a high opinion of himself.
I hear you.
Right?
But that's not the case anymore.
We're working on it.
Okay.
We're working on it. Joe just got a 96 on his contemporary issues test in his social sciences class, which is a wonderful achievement. He likes the class. He doesn't, he's not been one to really excel there. It's really great. We talked about that today. I was like, really great, being supportive. But
you spoke with him today?
Yes.
Well, listen, he's going to see this.
I'll send him an invite. Yes.
No, he's going to be able to see this podcast, and I hope you leave it in because our kids need to hear what we feel.
Yes.
When we don't think they're going to hear it.
Don't make me cry.
All right, go on.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I do really value my son.
Yeah. Of course you can. That's part of you. You spend all your time with. That's what you're doing it for.
But growing up, I didn't. I'm sorry. When he was a young child, I didn't value my children enough. I was so immersed in my work. I was working till 11 o'clock every night. If I wasn't, I was out drinking with clients. I wasn't there for my kids. So I am making up for it now. And I know I can't undo the damage I did, which is actually a blessing in a sense of not trying to. I know that today is a fresh start. Whatever I do is now from here. The damage is done, whatever's there. There's an old saying an old story about the nail that's hammered into the wood, and fixing that is like trying to take the nail out, but the hole's always there. But you got the nail out. So the pain can be gone, but the scar's still there. But moving onward and creating those new relationships. So I have a new relationship with my son, Joe, and a new relationship with my son, Renee, that wasn't there when they were younger. And just however I can support them. I have to be tough love at times. I have to be tough love. If I can be supporting at times, supporting it, whatever it is, but just not being reactive or not caring or dictative. It is good now. It is real good.
Are they close to their mother?
It's interesting. Yes.
They've always been?
So Renee has always been the distant one, the one who, if you had to put a label on it, I always thought he was a little bit Asperger's. Okay. All right. He's not. Clinically, he's not.
Very high performing, if he was.
Yes. But he definitely he's an introvert.
And he doesn't like being touched, or?
Probably not. Probably
because
not.
That's very Asperger's.
Yes. Has difficult times being touched. He will hug with me now. Okay. Never as a kid. Yes. Renee would not cry at movies. Didn't get it when other people were crying.
Would he laugh?
Yes. If something was funny, he would laugh. But the emotional connection of why they're crying on screen and how that connects to him wasn't really there. It's getting there now. He is be able to get himself more connected with movies now, which is great. Joe, on the other hand, would just be into it. Yes, and Mom was into it. So Joe and Mom were always closer. But then Joe and Mom had a much bigger rebellion period. Oh, he rebelled massively against his mother.
In his teens?
When he was 13, 14, before he went to the States. Oh, just tooth and nail and volumes. Yeah. Which was great timing for when we went to the States because then they became closer. Yeah. So whatever it was, it was good for both of them. Yeah.
That is so interesting.
But Joe came back for the first time for Obon August vacation this year, and Renee and Joe and my wife and I went up to Hokkaido for 10 days. And that was a reestablishing of everything. And Joe came back saying, "I had a really good time with Renee."
Oh, that was beautiful.
It was good.
That's good. That's good.
It's really good.
Yeah. That's all you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a start. It's a foundation.
That's right.
It's all about building foundations, right? Yeah.
It's the journey. It's not the destination.
Yes. It's always the journey.
It's not, because the destination we all know, and that's when that last breath goes out.
Yes.
And we'll know what that's about too
Yes.
when that comes.
Yes.
I'm no hurry. I'm in no hurry. Are you?
No.
No.
No. And that's why I don't see myself retiring, because
I don't even like hearing the term.
right. Right.
Somebody sold society a bill of goods. And I think it was a lot of oligarchs and people with a lot of power that said, we don't want the competition, so let's set an age limit.
Well, and also, if you have someone who's 65, if we force them out, you can get someone at 20 to have half the salary.
And with less of the knowledge. He knows nothing. He'll be in no threat to
Right.
what you believe or how you
Yeah.
think, and he can't show you anything. He
Yes.
has to keep the same old thing going on.
In our company bylaws, the employee bylaws,
Mm-hmm.
the employee bylaws, we have no age. There's no retirement in there. None. Okay. Your salary stops increasing at 65. Okay. And your salary basically goes. We have a salary that looks like this. And it's just, when you're 20, it does this.
Mm-hmm.
20, 21, 22, 23. When you get around 28 to 30, and then 30 to 35, it has this spike here. And then up around 38, it just levels off again. So when you're over 40, it goes up at most 1% a year, at most. Okay, so we're not really paying you much more after 40. We have no advancement in our company. There's no tiers. It's a flat structure. So you're not going to get promoted. Everyone works for basically that. We have to have a center for testing. People send us dirty equipment, dirty jigs, dirty parts that they want to see if our surfactants can clean. So we take before photos and after photos, and we try different temperatures, different pressures, different agitation to see if we can clean for them. And then we send them back the results. So we have a test center to test our products against different soils. So that's about 30 people we have.
That is so interesting.
But no retirement.
No retirement.
Yeah.
I like that.
So one of our employees is over 80.
Mm-hmm.
He's still working for us.
When did he start?
He's probably started when he was 55.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. We hired him away from another company. Well, actually, one of our distributors.
Okay.
Several of our employees come from our distributors.
Mm-hmm. The senior person, the grass does look greener.
They went in.
They went in. Hey.
Yes. Yes.
Hey. Well, tell me this, Dave. What do you see for the near future, or let's say the next 5, 10 years? Do you have any? You're not the guy that does that. You just come in every day and do what you do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
You take it day at a time.
Yes. David has his plans for growing the company,
Okay.
and we go through those plans every 6 months, and
Right.
it's all there.
It goes in your ear like this and this, and you say, okay,
Well,
what do
no,
I do
I
today?
have to retain it. I have to
hear
retain
you.
it. But I would rather have the sheet in front of me to go through it rather than tell you something and tell it
I hear you.
incorrectly.
I hear you.
We pay our employees to stay on top of that. So my functions in company are basically dealing with the factory, raw materials, any type of sales to foreign entities, anything's international. David's in charge of all the grand marketing concepts, all the salesmen, anything to do with personnel is pretty much a group decision. Personnel is pretty much a group decision. And banking and investment and financial, that's all David. So we definitely, we cover our weaknesses and that.
That's beautiful.
But in terms of where I see our company in 5 years, we hope we've gone over the hump. We hope we get that sales boost.
The tipping point.
Yes, tipping point.
Yeah.
We're ready for it. We've been ready for 20 years. We have everything in place, so when it does, we're not caught short. We're not caught empty-handed. We're not caught without the resources to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're fully aware that it might never materialize.
Mm-hmm.
We want it to materialize. We see it materializing. We imagine it materializing. We do that positive restructuring. It's never a case of it's not going to happen.
I hear you.
Okay.
That's good.
It's always the case that it will happen. How do we make it happen?
Are you hoping to have a big company maybe absorb you? Or it could be in many different ways. No, you wouldn't let that happen. What about
We've been
investors?
offered already.
You've been offered several times. That's not the way you want to go. You want it to be from inside out,
Well,
not outside in.
David knows that if we ever get taken over by another company, it will at some point, somehow, somewhere, by someone, pervert the
essence,
the purpose of the company,
I hear you.
which is to provide happiness for all human beings, to make the earth a better place and preserve its most precious resource, people. And just that he knows that someone's going to take a shortcut somewhere and prioritize profit over relationships at some point. It's bound to happen. We've seen it happen over and over again with our trading partners. So he'll never let that go.
Before I end the podcast, I always ask my guests a question.
Okay.
If you could go back in time,
Okay.
and you could talk to the 20-year-old Dave, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give him?
A lot.
What would it be?
Number one thing, prioritize people over having fun, especially alcohol. I told you I started drinking when I was 8. I started doing illicit substances when I was 7. So I've never had it be something that was not part of my life. And I drank through, when I got to France, I started drinking. I drank through high school, I drank through college, I drank through my professional life, I drank through my marriage. I drank would be to have the memories of what of drinking affected in my life negatively, and be able to see those memories as a 20-year-old and understand that this is the path if you weren't drinking. This is the path if I didn't drink to get the buzz. If a drink were simply in my hand because it was socially what was required, and I'd be just as happy drinking cranberry juice as I was drinking a beer. That would be a major thing. Would be to tell myself to be more centered and more at peace with myself and like myself. I don't have to be drinking. I don't have to be out there every night having fun, because it really did do damage to a lot of people. It did. So I see that. That would be I'd be shaking my 20-year-old self and trying to get him into shape. But other than that, be more not sincere, because I don't really think I've been contrite or anything with people. But you've heard of Desiderata, right?
Desiderata. No.
Wonderful. Please look it up. Desiderata.
Desiderata.
Desiderata. It was written by a priest well over 100 years ago, and it talks about what to do, how to really live your life best. And it's just it's wonderful, wonderful advice. I tell everyone, read it. Desiderata. It's reformation of your life. Anything in there that you're not doing, start doing it. It truly is. But Desiderata. It is a great read. And it's all, I have it on my computer, I have it on my watch, I pull it out.
On order of books.
It is only, whatever it is, 40 lines long. It's a poem. It's a poem. It's a poem.
Okay.
It's a poem. And each pearl of wisdom is a line or two long at most. Just this wonderful stuff that really centers you. So that's what I tell myself.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh,
I really
thank you
appreciate
for
this.
accepting so quick. We just met on the happenstance
Yes.
of being in front of the same place, same 7-Eleven.
Well, you know there's no such thing as chance, right?
I believe that too.
Are your eyes looking up? If I were in a bad mood and I were just walking by, my head would have been down.
Right.
I wouldn't have seen you.
Right, but I would have looked in there. No, I probably would let you stay in your misery. Because
Right.
I don't let you stay in it.
But that is what chance. That's what
true.
fortune is
That's true.
having your eyes up and being open.
That's
Always. Oh, okay.
And we're in an environment where we don't fear each other. Fear we didn't expect anything from each other.
Exactly.
I love an environment like this. And when you get to places, I can sense it right away when someone thinks you want something from me, or you have to worry they want something from you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dave.
My pleasure.
I want to thank all of you for watching this podcast. Make sure you press like and subscribe. And never forget, it's all on loan. So reach for the stars, because you're too blessed to be stressed.